Welcome to the 24th edition of Botcasters. Today with Beth White from the company Mibibo from the US of A. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Doran. Appreciate you having me on your show, and happy to be here today. The company is actually pronounced Mibibot, and there's a reason for it. Yeah, that's okay. There's a reason for it. It's a little weird spelling, and it really came about because, Mibibot lets me be efficient, lets me be productive, lets me be the best I can be. So it really came from the essence of, helping people. So putting the human touch into the chatbot world.
You've explained the name now, but you also need to introduce yourself, Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as an introduction, I'm Beth White. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm the founder and CEO of Mibibot. At times I call myself the chief bot because it's fun, and I enjoy kind of having a little bit of fun with, the job title and what we do. And so our company and my background was in HR, and I know that was really interesting to you, Doran, is that I actually came out from seeing business problems that I wanted to solve. So I spent over 15 years working in, I call it every facet of HR. I moved into enterprise software sales, always working with a lot of forward-thinking technology companies. And there was really this inflection point where I started to see the advances in AI, and I personally started interacting with more and more chatbots that were on consumer-facing websites, and it really led us to where we are today, which is how do we bring that type of consumer-like feel of supporting people, their needs, into business organizations. And so that's really the gist of Mibibot, is we're here to help employees get quick answers to their questions. We provide push communications, pulse surveys, and it's all about affecting the employee experience within companies, elevating it so that people can be their best selves, companies can use their time more effectively and efficiently, and ideally, it's all about making work more meaningful.
For the HR people, or for the people in general?
For the whole business, right? I mean, our solution automates answers to HR, payroll, benefits, facilities questions, IT help desk questions. So we really do touch on a lot of different departments across the business, and we really think about it in a more holistic way. We like to think of the employee as, a human being that has needs, and at times they don't know who handles expense reports, for example, and who can get them a new badge for the office if they have to have a security badge. So they are able to go to one simple, unified, we call it interface, which is the chatbot, and they're able to ask the types of questions that they have and get that automated conversational AI answers delivered to them instantly 24/7. So,
and that's in Microsoft Teams or Slack?
Yep. We have our app is in the App Store in the Microsoft App Store for Teams and Azure. So we're a certified app for Teams. We also have a SharePoint app that's a web-based app that installs in different types of SharePoint pages. So that's for the Microsoft world. And then for other types of users, we also have the Slack app. So we're certified in the app marketplace for Slack. We were actually the Brilliant Bot of the Month for both May and June last year, which was a lot of fun to get that accolade, especially since it comes from a lot of the Slack development community. And so that's our interface as far as how employees can access Mibibot. And, we're happy to work with some amazing companies with people all across the globe now.
You're going international.
Oh, yes. We're already in 50 countries. So,
wow, that's amazing. Because of your customers who have...
our customers. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started with just a centric approach of the U.S., approaching a lot of different types of U.S. companies. But in the world of work these days, it doesn't take long for companies to have employees in all different types of locations. And so we want to make sure we can support their employees wherever they are. And of course, if we go down the path of the pandemic, that obviously changed the way everyone works. And since remote work and hybrid work is essentially here to stay, there's even more and more of a desire to have a way to connect with people, their employees, through digital, what we call ourselves as a digital front door to guide employees.
Interesting. And would you say that your experience in HR on the one hand and your frustration about all the hands-on processes, which are very labor intensive and not so much fun for the employees who need to handle those questions, and they're not available 24/7. And if you have different companies in different time zones, it becomes even more complicated, especially if HR is centrally organized. Would you say that the frustration is the biggest driver of the innovation you've done?
Absolutely. I mean,
I'm steering a bit, I understand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually left the HR profession for years, and I went into enterprise software sales because I wanted to bring solutions to companies. And I spent a lot of time in the retail technology world and saw how retailers and brands were really connecting with their consumers. And it really led me to believe that I loved my HR roots. I believe that people and work are where we're at. And having been in the role of HR for many years, I just saw so many processes that were incredibly manual, that were very labor intensive time wise, and not a very good use of the strategic, persons that you have on your team that are supporting the employees. If you're spending, an hour or two a day just responding to, questions that are coming in from employees all over the globe, that's not the best use of someone's time, right? I mean, I'd rather have a company be able to focus on their diversity, equity, and inclusion programming, adding new perks and benefits to support the employees, being able to put in additional cybersecurity programs and policies, because that's the world we live in now. And when hours are spent every day doing routine tasks, it makes you take a step back and say, we've got to fix this. So it wasn't just the employee types of support that really lent it to this. There's a number of other areas within inside business that I believe need refactoring. I mean, we've been at a point in time where we've grown to have most companies have over 400 different types of software solutions they're running within inside their organization. I mean, our movement to the cloud was exciting because it allowed people the ability to purchase more software to do more specific types of tasks. But it also created this crazy, noisy ecosystem for people with inside companies. They don't know what these tools are, how to use them. And so giving them a solution that helps, in a way, dispatch them to where they need to go. And then the forward thinking, talking about just the future is, having that digital front door become the means of completing transactions, not just getting the information, but actually taking away the step of having to do things that were before very, labor intensive by the employee, having to go into a different system to do a process, but also for the people that support the employees. So this is the side I saw in HR, where I saw that HR had their own interface to a system or technology, and then the employee had their own different process. And a lot of times the two did not come together. So we're at a great time right now where it's so exciting because I think there's so much improvement we can make in this area. And at the foundation levels of people and work, as we all are working, and we all are working more and more hours, and there's a lot of blurred lines between work and life and what have you. And the more we can simplify things that cause frustrations for people within business, I believe people will be their best selves and be able to put their talents to the best use.
That is that actually makes a lot of sense. And if you look at the value you're creating with your company and your chatbot, what do your customers say where you create the most value? Because I understand as a CEO, you have a certain vision on the value you create, but the actual answer is with the customers. And
For
in
sure.
preparation, we discussed this a bit, and I think that the value your customers tell you, that should be another source of inspiration to keep improving. So
Right.
I'm curious what they
Absolutely.
tell you. And I know
Yeah.
you're going to be honest, so that's
For
a good
sure.
part.
I mean, the good news is we have very positive accolades, but hey, it's like any technology. There's always room for improvement. And when we started MeBot from day one, we wanted to work with a customer, and we are so fortunate to have had E2 Open, their global supply chain software company, become our first customer. So we were really kind of brought into their organization. They knew that this was innovative, new types of technology. They were very interactive with us and working on bettering the solution to get it to where it is today and beyond, in the sense that we've even grown it out further with the help of other customers. So we look at a lot of our customers as our innovation partners. And what they say about MeBot is the first value add is time savings, right? I mean, there are just things that everyone does in their day-to-day work. And if you really started to examine how long you spend on different types of tasks,
You don't want to know.
you don't want to know. And that's really where, we come in, is when we start to, automate the answers and people start to feel this weight lifted, like they have less emails coming in. They don't have people Slack messaging them or calling them at all hours of the day because they lost an insurance card and need a new one. It's giving people that value in the gift of time is, I think, the first big win that I know our customers say. I think the other piece of the solution.
Can I ask you one question on this?
Yeah.
Because that's beautifully formulated, by the way, the gift of time. And if you allow me, I'll use it in another recording soon, because this could be very relevant. But if you say the gift of time, did any of these companies? No, let me phrase it differently. I presume before you supply your software and you go into a project, you make like a business case of use case where you calculate, okay, this is approximately the cost and approximately the savings. So this is under it's green or red, but you should be saving money eventually. But normally that's what we do. A little bit further down the line, you look back and say, okay, this is what we envisioned we would do. Now we have the real cost and the real returns. Do they still match, or are they better? And what we see, we're very conservative in estimating the actual value you're creating. Mm-hmm. And once you start working on this, the staff gets creative with the application and starts saying, oh, we can do this and we can do that, and by doing that, create more value. That's how I see it. But I'm just curious, is this in the HR field happening also? Because you said something really important, and I strongly believe in this, is that you go from a conversation to a transaction. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, the key to the future of what we're looking at, conversations going transactional. Right.
Absolutely. And so from day one, again, we've had this crawl, walk, run type of mentality. Let's get a solution out there. Crawl, walk, run.
I got it. I'm trying to picture this.
Well, you want to put a solution out there and see how people use it, get their feedback, and then it's agile development.
MVP, growth hacking.
It's constantly iterating on itself, right?
Yeah.
And you can come up with, there's a number of people that I know and have met that have built technology over the years, and that whole "if we build it, they will come" type of mentality. We do not have that,
And it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It's you need to be you can always have ideas and put it in front of the customers, but just to your point, it's a matter of starting out with something. The first point of how we describe our ROI value is if we're able to even save one person 1 hour of time that's normally answering routine types of questions, the solution pays for itself. And typically, you have a company with 500 to, say, 10,000 employees. It pays for itself in a couple months, right? Just with the cost savings of the time. And of course, you hope that those people are applying that time to more strategic tasks that are more impactful to
and
the
not
business,
being fired.
Right? Yeah, we have never had an intention of MeBot. And frankly, I get this question a lot. do you think your customers are worried that you're there to replace them? I said, absolutely not. I don't think anyone who signed up to be in the profession of HR, or frankly to be in even IT, ever said, all I want to do all day is respond to manual questions that people have, right?
Beth, I'm so happy you're saying this, because there's this delusional idea in the market that if you introduce a chatbot, that of course it replaces certain tasks and work. And you see this whole thing with AI, a lot of jobs are going to be gone, but it's going to change. I'm not sure if it's going to be gone. Some functions really going to change because AI, especially the repetitive tasks, and in combination with RPA, it's going to evolve and change. But that leaves space for people to develop themselves and take on a different role because they have all the knowledge of the customers, of the process, what the outcome should be. But there's this delusional idea in a lot of people's minds that if you introduce a chatbot, you can fire people. It's the same with when a lot of companies, when they introduce a new CRM package, software package, I'm not going to say any names, but usually the business case is based on how many people they can delete or X. And the end result is usually they need more people because we have workarounds and it's not as efficient as we thought. Okay, it was sold more beautiful than it actually is. And I think in our field, we're actually selling what we're selling. We're not, we're not selling a dream. We're actually selling a better experience or a process to a better experience. It's not there in one go. We know that. It's hard work. That's what people tend to forget. It looks easy. It's very difficult.
It is very difficult. And you're bringing up a really excellent point. And, it's one of the conversations that we have in, frankly, the sales process and ongoing as we support our customers to be successful using our solution. In fact, we meet with our customers at least once a month, if not more, to guide them and help them drive adoption, make sure they understand the usage. The bot provides feedback that the business can see so that we can continue to hone in on the natural language processing, the machine learning, and our overall language model, right? So it's a continuous loop. But I think the most exciting thing that I see out of this is when I had a customer say to me, I'll show you how I sold MeeBot to my executive, that I report to. And it said, I brought up an org chart, an organizational chart. And I said, here's the org. Here's where MeeBot fits in. MeeBot's like another person on the team, right? It's augmenting the team. I always use the word augmenting. It's a team member that's there to help others so that other work can shift to people that is the more higher value work. Right.
It's interesting. A digital coworker, a digital colleague.
It's a digital coworker. And, we're even coming up with we have a blog that's coming out in a couple of weeks that talks about, like even a fictitious job description for what MeeBot does, like as if you were recruiting or hiring for this role, because it really funny. It's a lot of fun. And when our customers really absorb and think of MeeBot in that way, it's like, it's the same way you think about a team member, like, oh, so-and-so can help with that, or so-and-so is going to communicate that. And so we just become an integral part to the overall team because that's what we're there to do, is to support, the internal business users, but the end recipients are the employees who are gaining a lot of the added value and benefit, right? And so the time savings, that ROI story, but I think there's more of these intangible benefits. And one of them that it's harder to quantify with facts and figures, but we upskill people within companies. I have taken just, HR people that are, technical enough to run different database type systems like an ADP or a Workday, and they know how to run reports and pull data out and complete, fields of data and systems, et cetera. But we teach them how to train a bot, right? I mean, it's one of the functions of what the solution provides is
that's why you can't fire them. You need them.
Exactly. I mean, and the employees themselves, again, they gain that knowledge, and I think they're gaining it in a very organic, natural way where they're not even realizing that they're learning more and more about it. I mean, it is something that's very accessible to a non-technical business user to kind of grab onto, which I believe is the way to develop technology for the future. If you're developing AI, I think every company or individual needs to be very cognizant of that business user experience with your product. I mean, if they have to hire a number of people just to operate the solution, and then they have to have these internal industry knowledge of the product,
and very
that's really rough. And that's
to...
very expensive consultants. I mean, I believe we've gotten to a point with technology where we can do a better job of servicing our customers by providing them solutions that are lower maintenance, right? And scalable, right?
You're triggering my curiosity. You know, I'm very curious. I'll ask anything. I warned you. If you say it's low maintenance, a lot of the systems, and I've seen a lot of systems by now, promise low maintenance or low code or whatever. And then when you see them, you look at it in total despair. It's like, this is made by a technical person and not by by a user. It should be designed by a user. How do they operate? So I'm really curious. Could you give a little view on how this works? Because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put on my glasses now and share the screen.
You're excused.
So that I can see. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. So what I'm going to show the folks that are on this
because one of the things
is
one of the things is important strategically. If you look at when you go somewhere, you help a company set up a chatbot, and you do the strategizing and the technology choice, and I'm interested also in the way you chose your technology, and if you would go back, if you would do things differently now with the knowledge you have now compared to when you started. But that's for after you showing us the tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot that went into the decisions there. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I truly believe it. But I think that the proper thing to do as a consultant or whatever we call ourselves is to make sure the company is able to do these kind of things themselves or operate the systems themselves. They're totally dependent, we should be part of their ecosystem instead of they shouldn't be part of our ecosystem. Do you know what I mean with that?
Absolutely. And where I want to go is over to the portal, because this is the customer piece that you've asked a lot of questions about, Doran. You've asked, how does that content, manage and maintain? What's it like to,
how easy is it?
How easy is it? How does it work? And so, again, we've designed a solution for non-technical business users. And when that non-technical business user, so I'll give you an examples of the types of people that are in this portion of MeeBot. It can be, someone in charge of people operations. It could be someone over employee benefits, payroll, the IT team that handles the frequently asked questions from employees, a representative from facilities.
It's the same idea as maintaining your intranet.
Exactly. So we have a whole system of user maintenance where you can actually come in here and you can add perhaps a new user, and then you can give them what their role is. So they'll have a role and what kind of content they have access to. So for example, if I have someone in Canada and they're going to be the person that's going to manage all the content for Canada. However, they're really the specialist over benefits, right? So I can make them an editor of just the content for employee benefits for Canada. So
this way you guard the quality and make sure that no one is fiddling around with something he or she shouldn't.
That's right. I mean, for example, if there's some payroll content, the payroll people get to own that content. They get to own the answers that the employees receive, and it all works in a very seamless way. So, for example, if I'm at, a person in the U.S. and I'm, say, over employee, let's say I'm over employee payroll, okay? I would come in to set up MeeBot. We've created a system where this may sound illogical, but again, having that business user perspective, being in the role in HR for so many years, I actually knew that no matter what company I went to, employees ask the same types of questions. But what makes it unique is the answers that are provided with some very specific information that are just what I call the variations, right? And so we call those placeholders. So if I'm the person in charge of payroll, I would come in here and I'd have the ability to come in and fill out what I call my placeholder values, like when do employees receive this tax form, right? Who's the person that can answer payroll questions? Maybe it's a person, maybe it's an actual department. So I can come in here if I want to update a placeholder. I mean, these of course come blank, in a non-completed fashion to the customer. And the first step of getting MeeBot set up is just simply come in here, search for your category of content that you own, or we have a focus mode too, that if I'm a business user only in payroll, I'll only see payroll content, but I'm a super admin, so I can see everything. But I would choose my content area, and I can just go through here and just put in some of these basic factors that make my business unique. And then the great thing is that, again, yes, employees have questions that are important to them and that the answers are specific to each business. However, there's only so many variables to what makes it different. So we took the liberty and provided all of our customers with default answers. So for example, if a customer wants to enable content on direct deposit, they simply enable this question. And if they want to provide instructions on how payroll is being deposited for them, we've already given them a sample of what most of our customers are using as their answer. And they just
rewrite it.
And they can rewrite it. They can add in more questions. You could say, we love, it's great to use direct deposit, or whatever they want to say.
How much time did for an implementation? How much time did you gain by doing this?
Okay, so the value gained in having this type of system to use placeholders that flow into these default answers, it cuts down our customers going live, by probably, I would have to say, at least 75%. Because before we had this whole solution designed in this way, it was a lot more reviewing content, really thinking about what people wanted in answers. People make better content editors than creators, and I think our all the experimentation on ChatGPT will prove that to be true. Nobody wants to come up with original content.
There's very few people that can, actually.
That's right. And so we call ourselves, I've been playing with OpenAI ChatGPT for quite a while, and I call ourselves, we were ChatGPT before that existed. we just formulated this content in a way that makes sense to business. This is important content that's company specific, but yet it is somewhat similar from company A to B to C. But what's really, really critical is that this is employee information that needs to be maintained by human beings so that the accuracy of answers is spot on, because you really can't give people bad information about their paycheck, for example, right?
No.
And so the great thing is I am a non-technical person. At any point in time, I can come into here to any answer, update it, and make it improved. I can correct inaccuracies. I can update it for changes that might be happening. For example, if you have a different process that might go into effect on a future date. And in the world of HR, in the U.S. especially, we have changes in our benefits almost every year. So a lot of our customers are able to set up new answers to questions well in advance of the benefit change happening. And so that's one of the benefits of our system is, again, having that dynamic way to change content without having to go to a technical team to do so. And again, this is not generative AI here in the answer. This is MeeBot's pre-populated, curated content library of over 350 questions and answers that are commonly asked in business.
I would assume that if you would use generative AI here, it would be a total disaster. You guys built an amazing application, but now the question arises when we started this sort of demo. What hurdles? How did you go about choosing your tech stack to build this? Because like any other company, that must have been a hurdle. And looking forward, if you look back at the choices you made or your team made, and then look forward at the choices you are going to make or you want to make. Do your choices in the past allow you or limit you, or maybe it's neutral, to do whatever you want or you envision in terms of innovation? Compliments for what you've shown. I think it's really amazing because you've chosen a niche, and you're using all your knowledge and experience to not from the standpoint of a conversation designer, but from a business perspective, to bring something that actually adds value, makes people's lives better, easier, but also faster, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's a bit instant satisfaction, whereas the frustration, I've worked in companies where you send an email to an HR colleague and you get a mail back, will answer you in 72 hours.
That's right.
But I have a question now and I want an answer now, and nobody picks up a phone. That's really frustrating. So, whereas sometimes the question is actually, I'm not the only one asking that question. So if you look at that tech question, how did you guys do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was probably the hardest decision to start with is which team do we work with first, right? Because we considered, AWS and going down that path. We looked at a lot of Google. We ended up choosing Microsoft, and we have our whole solution cloud hosted in Microsoft Azure. We're leveraging Microsoft's bot framework, and we also have been utilizing Microsoft Lewis, which is their language understanding information system. We're migrating right now to their newer version called CLU, and it will be a great upgrade. And frankly, it's allowing for more the technologies there where it's allowing things that were harder to do, like multilingual support, to now become a little bit easier with some of these iterations. Yeah. And again, the conversational aspects of, even the bot framework and some other things are constantly improving. Do we always look at other options? Sure. We've had conversations with all the big players out there, as you can imagine. We've never once thought to build everything ourselves, because I've been down that path before. And when you've got some amazing companies really being innovative in this space, it's good to just have great friends. That's what friends and partners, right?
I agree.
And so we're happy with that decision, because we knew selling to enterprise businesses, here's like one way someone put it is, no one gets fired for using something in Microsoft. No one gets fired for paying people through ADP.
Rewarded.
So it's kind of like you have to go with something that's enterprise grade. We are now SOC 2 Type 2 certified, which is a pretty big industry standard in the U.S. And we
cost you probably a fortune.
It's a process. Let's just call it that.
It's a process of emptying your bank account.
Yeah, it's one of these things that I understand the need for it, and frankly, we were doing all the right things in the first place, but I guess we have to prove it out, right? So,
what I find interesting, a lot of these standards and norms. I'm not saying they're not necessary. They are necessary. A lot of companies work according to the standards and norms, or even better. But there's a whole layer on top of it to document things in a certain way. Otherwise, you don't get certified. That doesn't mean if you're not certified, you're not good at what you do and you're not safe, etc. And it's also a business, and that's what kind of worries me, the whole certification story, because. Let me put it this way. Enough companies have been hacked or visited by unfriendly visitors who had been certified left and right, up and down, with all the diplomas on the wall, and still they got in. So there's it's not a guarantee. It's the only thing, you did everything according to the book, but there's no hacker that does anything according to any book. They don't even have a book.
That's right. And so, making the decision with Microsoft was a good one. I think, looking at some of the things that we could have done differently, creating the whole content library. We started out with a very, U.S.-centric perspective, and we quickly iterated to realizing that, hey, even though the company may be headquartered in the U.S., they have people all over the world. So we quickly had to, change our whole kind of UI design to be able to support this world that we live in now with people all across the globe and their need for unique answers to questions.
Do you have your own developers, or do you use?
Yes, we have our own. We have our own team, and they're amazing. And they're
in the U.S. or
actually, our team is in Argentina of development. Oh. Yep. Frankly, I'm fortunate to have worked with these same individuals at the prior company I worked at, and so we've had a great working relationship even before we started with MeBeBot. But our team's been dedicated and with us. Most of them from day one, and they love learning because it's constantly learning new things. If you're comfortable in a more routine type of job, do not come anywhere near us,
But Spanish shouldn't be a problem then.
That's right. I mean, if you're not constantly growing and trying new things, you're not going to be able to keep up in this world of chatbots and AI. So.
True. If you look at Beth, if you look at the mark with all the experience you have and the hardships, of course, for being an entrepreneur and taking all the risks and making all the choices, if you look outside to the world, what is, besides your own application? I understand that. What do you think is the most interesting use case that either recently came up or is coming up or it's been around for a little while in terms of using conversational AI technology and actually solving a problem besides the HR field?
Yeah, I think that I follow obviously our industry and space in the work tech area. However, work tech, has many facets. So I find the healthcare space to be really, really interesting when you see that AI is helping doctors make quicker diagnoses with people. They're using conversational AI to help, even read, test results, lab results, and different types of, imaging, for example. And I do believe that there's just so much that can be done in the world of healthcare to help people get more speedy diagnoses, and hopefully that would increase people's potential survival rate if they're able to do this. And, I really think there's an opportunity to support the patient more, right?
Could you elaborate on that?
I don't see a lot of that. And I think the healthcare industry is still scared to do that. But if I'm a patient and my elaboration would be, for example, in the U.S., many people log into different types of systems that their healthcare provider uses to see their medical record, right?
Same here in Holland.
Yeah, but I can't ask any questions unless I submit a question to a messaging ticket
or an email.
I wait a day or two and I get a response from someone in the office.
You're lucky.
If you're lucky, and they're all overworked, and I feel it is an incredibly stressed space right now as far as people are concerned. But what if a AI chatbot could be more conversational within those medical record systems to actually help an employee understand potentially a test result? For example,
so can I ask a question on that? Because in our family we had a discussion about this. I come from a medical family. Would you envision in an X amount of time a situation where you go to the doctor, you get your blood work done, you get an X-ray or a scan, and we know that X-rays or scans being digital, and there's so many images that training AI or to compare the images and spot differences. It's extremely good at that. So we know in due time AI will coexist next to the doctor or the radiologist and, well, not replace the radiologist, but tell him or her, I found this spot, it's different, it shouldn't be there, it's an anomaly, please check it out. And it's here, and I don't know, they encircled or something. Would you envision that AI would put all those results together and then gives you a list? Well, it could be the 3 following with a 99% accuracy or 90% accuracy. It's either one of the following 3 diseases. And would you imagine that one of these diseases could be terminal, like you could die from it? How do you envision AI? Because it doesn't feel, it's not. They can try and make it empathetic, but it's not.
Right.
Where do you draw the line? And do you envision tech telling us just the way it is? Because we had the discussion, and one of my kids said to me, it's like, look at it this way. If you're a doctor and you have to tell a patient 25 times a day, 5 minutes, that he is dying, did anybody ever thought about what the impact on the doctor is?
Right. Of course.
And that puts your mind to think about this. Then, okay, it is a burden. And a doctor that is stressed can't perform properly. So wouldn't it be, and it's suggestive, I understand, but wouldn't it be better that you get an emotionless bot telling you these are the results, these are the probable diseases, your doctor will look over it and, please schedule an appointment where we talk through the test results or whatever extra tests we have to do, blah, 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 blah. Would you envision that to happen, or you would still see a doctor telling that? Or are we going overboard here?
Great question. And it's interesting to think into the future. To think into the future, however, I'm a very big proponent on the crawl, walk, run, right? As I mentioned earlier. So to get started down this path, I think right now, helping the healthcare professionals make diagnoses quicker in their own way, I think that is the absolute first step, right, down the path, right? Now, the time and place to actually submit all that information directly to the end consumer, I think that is a long ways out. I personally would be very uncomfortable. Yes, I do.
But
do.
Hold on, Beth, because I don't know if you tried. I tried. I put in my blood works in ChatGPT just to see what it came up with. First, it told me I can't say anything, and then there's a hack or a command, a prompt you can give where it does it anyway. And you asked for differential diagnosis, and there was nothing bad going on, so that's the good news. But it literally came up with differential diagnosis, and I would imagine, and maybe not everybody, but if you can log into the system of the hospital or the doctor, get out the results of the blood or radiologist, copy that, put it in ChatGPT or any other AI application, and just ask me, what am I looking at? And tell me differential diagnosis. Wouldn't you imagine, or I would imagine, let me put it that way, that because I tried it, and I also asked, can you give me the articles or the source of your information? And ChatGPT actually gave me the source of the information with links to PubMed, where the articles were published, who published it in which year. So basically, I could have read all the articles and know more than the doctor, and have more actual concrete information. So I see a future or a near future where, as a consumer, we put in our blood work and whatever test results we have, we put it in AI, we get information. It doesn't mean it's true, by the way. There's the problem. And the seed is planted in my head that whatever a differential diagnosis comes out, none of them are good. So I go to the doctor with the idea, the results are not good. That doesn't mean they're true. I don't have the knowledge to judge if it's true. And I see a challenge for doctors arise that if they don't start using that in a way to communicate to their patients, the patients will start communicating like that to their doctors. And then a real problem arises because they get a shitload of extra work to debunk that information and get them on the right track. Because they'll be saying, no, but I need this medication. He says, no, you don't need that. It's going to cost more time, probably more money. And neither one is available in the market. I mean, we're short of time with doctors, and the insurance companies are short of money. Well, they're not short of money, but they don't want to spend it.
Well, I think you just brought up the key point, the insurance companies. So here's where I think is so far away, because at least in the United States, with all the privatized healthcare we have and how disjointed it is today, every single healthcare company is trying to manage their costs, right? That's the number one imperative. So if you're going to be delivering results to a patient that may be suggesting that they have something that is, expensive, costly, malignant, et cetera, I mean, they're going to go and want the best care to take care of that and perhaps cause a lot of claims issues that might not have been necessary. So I just don't see a world right now where insurance companies are going to allow for this, right? Because they are going to control they already control the doctors in the U.S. If you talk to any doctor, half of them will tell you they're leaving. If they've left the profession, many of them will blame it on how many rules and regulations the insurance companies putting around them as to how they can provide care and treatment to their patients, right?
It's the same here. They protocolized everything, and because of all the protocols, if you, for instance, prescribe as a doctor medication that's not generic, you have to explain why you're not prescribing the generic medication, even though that patient used that medication already for 20 years and needs that specific one because the other one has side effects you don't want, whatever, or allergies. They just make them write letters, I don't know, put in paperwork for nothing. And the cost of that is tremendous. I think the percentage of their time doctors spend on administrative work is absolutely ridiculous. And
right,
it's
and that's why I think
themselves.
In the world of chatbots, if we're looking at examples of where there's so many opportunities to help people to use this technology and automation to better lives. However, I think any industry that's very heavily regulated is going to be the laggard in this whole story of adoption, right? And when you think about it, who were some of the first companies that really embraced chatbots were retailers. They want to sell you more things, right? And it's a space that I sold into and worked in for years. And, it's one of the ones that's not that regulated. You just have to make sure people's payments are protected, but they don't have all the guidelines like the oil industry would have, and energy industry and healthcare industry, insurance industry. So banking industry. So, it's a little tough, right? And I think I mentioned one of my examples one of my inspirational bots was, there's two. One was USAA, which is it's a banking and insurance company in the U.S. designed for military personnel. So my dad is ex-military, and so we're members, but they have a beautiful chatbot in the mobile phone that allows me, if I have my car break down at the side of the road, I can pinpoint my location and order the type of tow truck I need for the type of issue I may be having with my vehicle without interacting with the human. And I've used it many a times, unfortunately, and it's fabulous. And
I'm not going to say you're driving an American car.
Yeah, yes, and there you go.
I didn't say
that happens. And but great bot, and they have an amazing team of conversational experts at USAA. I know some of them, and they're top notch. They have banking help too. They have help with your insurance policy, but I know where they draw the line on what they're going to serve but guess what their member base is? Their member base are military personnel that are often deployed to all ends of the earth, right? Yeah. So they had what I call the very first mobile member base, right? Remote. You think about all the people that are living in other countries that are part of the U.S. military. It's enormous. The other bot that I really liked and wanted to call out was my first favorite bot was Woebot, WOEBOT, and it's designed by a psychologist, psychiatrist, one of the two, woman from Stanford University, and it was a bot designed to help mental health support. And if you look at the history of chatbots, one of the first instances of Eliza, right, was how I'm feeling this way. It was more about feelings, right? Trying to get the understanding of sentiment, right? And
we forget bots have been around for quite a while already,
bots
but
have been
only
around
now
for a
we see
while.
the upturn.
Right. I think the computing power had to get there, right? To be able to process and just, the evolution of the machine, the AI machine learning, right?
Beth, I don't agree 100% with your vision on how fast it's going to go in the medical field. And I'll explain you why. In COVID time, in Holland, a video consultation with the doctor in the hospital was not paid for by the insurance pre-COVID.
Right.
And literally, and they, I don't know who, but they tried to stop that development left and right because whatever reasons. I don't even know the reasons. In 2 days into lockdowns and everything, they decided there was no other way than doing it. Now it's an integral part of hospital service to their patients, where they get an opportunity, a chance to make their clinics more efficient.
Absolutely.
Because in some instances, it's absolutely not necessary to come to the hospital. And it's a lot more efficient, and you see the increase, and also applications, but the increase in the use of that, and consumers are actually happy. They miss a bit the social contact, but at least you become more efficient, and it's paid for. So they could change that in 2 days. So, and I think the rise of the chat GPTs and other models is unstoppable. Of course, there will be restrictions and stuff and regulation. We just have to wait for it. It will come, because it has a scary part too. But consumers are also, they don't do what you expect from them. They do whatever they feel like doing. And if one starts, so I imagine that a group of people will post, I used GPT and it had my diagnosis right. And someone puts it on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram, and then generations will follow. What happens if all those people start doing that? First of all, the model is going to learn from all the input at an idiotic pace. It's get all this training data. And the second is all these doctors will be overwhelmed with all the questions from the patients. And I think they do need to prepare, and there's no way a human could do that. So they need to think of a way to combine, get a digital coworker in the hospitals or in the private practices to assist with these questions. Because you could imagine that, please send me the results you had, and we'll check it for you, and make a workflow of it, and have a doctor check it and use it in his real diagnostic part. Because sometimes they actually come up with good solutions or good ideas for a differential diagnosis a doctor cannot possibly invent himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I think in a year's time we do this again. We'll have this discussion.
Hey, maybe we'll take a little friendly bet here on it. So, but I wish things would move faster. There are days that I get frustrated because I struggle to really understand what about chatbots and AI are people not just embracing, and why isn't everybody on the same bandwagon we're on? I mean, but it's because there's change management involved, or change agility is what I call it, involved in taking solutions and putting them out there to either consumers or business. You have to encourage people to stop doing what they were doing and do things a different way. And human beings sometimes are the hardest obstacle, is to get people to kind of change their patterns, of behaving and doing things. I mean, I know it took years for people to realize, I mean, I'm at an age where I saw the advent of .com, internet e-commerce. I was working at a .com in the 90s, where we would have a whole team of people answering phone calls because people were too afraid to put their credit card information into this tool to make a purchase.
And they weren't wrong, huh?
Right.
They weren't wrong.
And sure, there's the need for it, but pushing the envelope showed that there's a need to have proper encryption of that payment information at that at the internet point of purchase. But I think if you don't push, you won't get there. And you brought up a great point about the pandemic. as terrible as it was, it pushed us all. It pushed us all out of our comfort zone. I mean, I saw whole companies move to remote work overnight. I mean, literally not overnight, but within 2 or 3 weeks, which is pretty incredible.
Which is still amazing.
And it is still amazing. And then doctors' offices who are willing to see people, the whole world just adapted so quickly because they had to. But it's like, what's going to be that burning fire? Because I surely don't want another pandemic to be the reason, but what's going to be out there to get people to move a little faster down this path?
And that's an interesting question. I think we need a lot of advocates and ambassadors and some ballsy, if I'm allowed to say that, some ballsy executives who are not afraid to envision a value, creating a value within their companies. Without having to lay off people, because that's pissing off the technical people. Because one of the things I see going wrong is that technical people or the ICT people often state that, but it doesn't fit into our blueprint, and we're a Microsoft company, so we can't have this. But then, but if we want to build a Microsoft framework bot, we don't have the people because you need certain skills. So it's layer after layer. It's a layer for we can't do it. And some people say, okay, let it go. And I think you need ballsy executives who break through that clutter and just say that you can discuss all you like. It's not a discussion. We are going to do this because it adds value to our customers and our employees. Don't talk about it, solve it. And if you can't solve it, I'll replace you with someone who can solve it. Because that should be I'm not making a program here to say we need to lay off ICT people. That's not my point. But a lot of the times companies are stuck in the tech stack they have and not willing to look beyond, because we have the programmers, we have this, we have that, we understand, but you need to look ahead and be prepared for whatever is coming. And we also saw a lot of companies that weren't prepared and able to move as fast. 2-3 weeks is really fast to do that. And they're still struggling because they got stuck. And that's why all the government had to help a lot of companies, because they were, stuck between a rock and a hard place, not making any money or having to close down.
Yes, absolutely. That is the worst. And again, I continue to go back to the word, AI and automation can help augment the world of work and augment people's lives. I don't think it is a replacement,
Oh, it's an add-on.
It's an add-on. It's an add-on value, just like, if you are using, Google Maps or your Apple Maps to drive someplace, it's helpful now. It's, does it replace the need to have a map in your car? Probably, but that's okay. There's some things that are okay, and we just need to embrace some of this new technology as part of our day-to-day lives.
And maybe have AI do some of the work and start working 4 days a week instead of 5. Why not?
That's right. That's right. And again, focusing on more meaningful work versus work that's creating frustrations.
I totally agree. Then we have less burnouts.
That's right.
If you look at the news, the recent news, and there's a lot happening in the world. Did you see anything where you would say, oh, if we only had a chat or voice bot or anything in that area, that would have made life for these people or for us so much easier or so much better. And you can also dream of something you see in the news and there's nothing out there. That's also one of the options.
Well, just something that recently I experienced is living in Austin, Texas. We're part of an electric grid that's not very stable, believe it or not. We have Elon Musk, who moved here and opened Tesla, but we still don't, in sending people to the planets or into space, and we still don't have a reliable electric grid. So when we've had cold winter weather in an area that doesn't get that cold, it's created a lot of havoc. And in Austin, just 2 weeks ago, we had an ice storm with ice on the trees that took down some power lines. So there are a lot of people that were out of power. So when you don't have power, guess what? You have no internet. You have no internet, and now we all have these nice phones. So had the electric company had a chatbot to help the consumers, understand the levels of the outages that were happening and when to potentially expect updates, that would have been fabulous, right? Because a lot of people were literally left in the dark without a lot of knowledge, and you still had the cell signal. So if they had a chatbot within the mobile app, of that provider or providers, right, that would have been incredibly beneficial in a time of need when, I really think of it in a lot of the scenarios of natural disasters, right? Hurricanes and
but there's still one problem, that if the power is down, then the cell phone towers are also down because they don't have no power.
Well, I haven't seen that happen in the several instances. Oh, yeah, they stayed up. I mean,
maybe they have backup power.
5 hours or 5 days without power, 2 years ago. And when the Texas grid could not handle the winter storms, across, yeah. So it was not a fun time. And living in a developed nation, we would think we could do better. So,
well, last year I was in France, and I was in an area where it's kind of rocky. So all the cable and internet lines are above the ground and not in the ground. And I rented a place, and there was a thunderstorm expected, and they can be quite hectic in that area because it's rocky, mountainy. And of course, the thunderstorm came, and the cable, the internet company, sent a SMS message to the owners of the property, saying that please take out the power cable out of the internet box, because if the lines are hit, it's going to damage the box and it's not going to work anymore. But the problem was, because we're in a mountainy area, the text message never got in until after the lines were hit by the lightning. Of course, it went down. Power went down and internet went down, and the box was blown up. But it took 4 days to get a new box. Right. And it also had something magical about it, because basically you're for a short while you're disconnected. And to be honest, that wasn't all too bad. Right. I read 5 books in 4 days.
There you go.
So it's not all that bad. However, nothing functions. That's the other problem.
That's right. And there's just so much in our lives. For example, people who are on dialysis machines that are electronic, right? I mean, there's just so much in our world that relies on electricity. And I mean, this is a first world problem I'm describing to you, but imagine, how helpful chatbots could be in other parts of the world where people went from never having a phone to a mobile phone, and now they have that handy. And if they can do more with that phone, they'd have even more power, potentially even to be, better educated in the sense of getting education services. And, I've worked with a charity that made sure people had clean water, some very basic
really
essentials,
simple.
Right?
Yeah, I think in the first world, we to our basic needs, we added electricity and internet.
Right.
Next to food and water and medicine and housing.
Right.
That, having said that, but at the same time in Africa, they do banking. They skipped the whole infrastructure part. They bank over their mobile phones, and they skipped the whole thing we went through in the development of our technology. It just went from old school to the mobile phone.
That's right.
Which is really interesting. They just send each other a text message with money, and that's sort of a bank transfer, which in our heads can't be done, but it's done.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, Beth, if you look at the future of chatbots and chatbot technology, and now we're really dreaming. Look a couple of years ahead. If we would do this podcast in 5 years' time, what are we doing in conversational AI or chatbots or voice bots, what we're not doing now? Try to think exponentially, which is really hard. I understand that.
Well, I'm probably being I'll come at it for the more realistic approach, which is I think that we'll be happy if we can do more transactions, completing a whole process through a chatbot conversation. I think that's likely where we'll be in 5 years, where exponentially things could get better. I still dream of the day of having a unified chatbot that knows me, that isn't just defined to me as a person who works at MeeBot, but knows my personal interests as well.
So your personal assistant.
It's my personal assistant for everything, right? From ordering groceries to,
It's like what WeChat does in China.
Potentially. I mean, it's basically just, to have that singular point of reference. Again, the smartphone has really done that for a lot of people. It's one of those devices that has really transformed the way we live, right?
Right.
And I think the chatbot and a bot that can not only support my needs, but serve me up information that I may be interested in as well. Is the predictive analytics and insights. The more I interact with the chatbot, the more it knows me, and more it may geolocate me and say, hey, I know you like, this shoe store and they have a sale. You're 5 minutes away. Here's the 20% off coupon, right? I know retailers do some of that today with global fence or geofencing and couponing, but there's just a lot that can be done to just benefit. And it's not just in the consumerism side of it. It could be all different aspects of just, knowing the individual. The technology could know the individual more and be more and more helpful. I mean, we've all got addicted to, our Netflix suggesting other programming we should watch. Amazon's been doing it for years.
Yeah, with the books.
With the books, if you read this book, you'll like this book. And so there's a lot of ability to leverage that.
People like you.
Yes, exactly. People like you, which, there's a lot of critics out there. There's a lot of critics, and I agree in the sense that, people will lose their individualism, which, we don't want to happen, especially if all that data is aggregated and people start to just look like profiles, right?
That was my question. So if you look at your dream, and I cannot disagree. I cannot punch a hole in this. I totally agree. I'd love to have that. But my question is, who would own the data? Would that data be just in your realm on your own little server, or would it something you would share with the alphabets, the Metas, the Amazons of this world?
Well, if you ask an individual person today who owns the data on your phone, a lot of times people cannot answer that question. They don't know. It depends on the provider. I do believe that there's levels of data that can be shared safely, and then there's levels of data that you would want to personalize. So, is there a day where everyone individual has their own little private cloud, that hosts their data? Possibly, that's possibly part of the future, right? You have that type of, I'm sure there's individuals that are doing that today, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
There's a lot, I'm sure. And so I'm probably very naive with that. But, the data, if you want technology to get better, though, you can't live in a bubble and say, I don't want to share my data, because how are things going to get better? It's kind of like when you're using, again, Google Maps and you're driving. Well, now when Google tells you to drive a different way, it's because you offered to share your data, and so did other people. So they're going to alert you that there's an accident and you might want to take a different way. Well, that became helpful for you. So now you're excited that you were sharing that data, right?
We're addicted to it.
Right.
We're hooked.
So we're hooked. And I know, that machine learning and training, and you've mentioned it with, it gets better the more volume of content it has. I believe there's some truth. There's definitely truth in that, but there's also, like, I've always had concerns about, I hate to say it, but crap in, crap out. If people are putting in a lot of, and I'm sure,
Wikipedia is a beautiful example.
Exactly. So there's going to need to be, people that are managing, I'm sure there's going to be.
Content.
That's right. And people that are managing the security, the privacy, that aspect is heavily looked at today. I mean, especially, in Europe, we're on the forefront of a lot of the privacy of data.
Legislation also on AI coming up. So
yeah, and so we're everyone's watching it, but I believe if companies start from day one with an ethical lens to what they're doing and how they're doing it, I believe they should be fine. If you don't have that lens, you might have something to be worried about, right?
I totally agree. Beth, do you still have time to look at a chatbot you like or don't like, and to have a look at it together?
I really have to go here very shortly, so
okay.
because I know we had reserved a set amount of time, but I do want to kind of do a shout out to a friend of mine who has a chatbot called Max, and her company name is Humaxa, and I really, like I mentioned to you, I added it right before. I have not utilized it lately, so I really...
So it's a surprise for you too.
It'll be a fun new user experience. She's an amazing individual, and
what does Humaxa do?
So I'm part of a community called Hacking HR. It's people who are innovating in HR. So what Max does is Max is a mentoring bot that helps you right now. And it can help you do different types of activities. So let's go up here and let's see, just select an activity, provide request for mentoring, provide or request mentoring. So I'm going to select that.
You know what I find, and it says now, we always tell to the listeners, because not everybody's viewing it through YouTube, what we see. So it says now you are starting a mentoring activity. We're doing this in Slack, by the way.
That's right.
Would you like to provide mentoring on a topic you're familiar with, request mentoring on a topic you wish to learn, or be reminded of your pending mentoring topics? And then there's a drop-down menu where you can choose provide mentoring, request mentoring, or remind me of pending topics. This is actually the first chatbot where I see the options not in like bullets or easily stated. It's in a sentence, and where you need to use a drop-down menu to choose, which is could be a little bit easier if you put buttons behind it or make the answer actually a button.
Right.
It's a little bit more accessible. And then when you're ready, either press submit to confirm or dismiss to cancel. We're, of course, submitting.
Okay.
But you need to select it. Oh, you want to be mentored.
Mentored. So I want to be mentored, and here's my different types of topics that I could be mentored on. And again, this is in a community of people within HR. I could have...
Is this from the community for the community?
This is actually, I believe, the core product, and it's sold into companies to, and I believe this list of ideas of what people can mentor is customizable by the company and what they want to offer.
And what colleagues have to offer each other.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
What people are signed up to help each other. So maybe I want to be informed more about data-informed HR. So I selected that.
And we go to submit.
And of course, it relies on, thanks for applying as a mentee.
Data-informed HR.
I will let you know when someone's interested in mentoring you on this topic. And so it's a matching system, right, that allows because people within companies are the best talent ever. And there's a huge emphasis right now today on,
it's like a Tinder for in-company Tinder without the dating part.
That's right. I mean, it's basically like, setting up a matchmaking service, right? There you go.
And is there profile information behind it?
That's right. So yes, because I'm part of this community, I've built my profile. I have what my information is out there, and then I likely would be able to find that individual. But they're assuming that this is actually installed more inside of the business itself, meaning I'm a company and I have, 500 employees, 1,000 employees. Every employee could go out and build a profile. So I can build a profile.
This is actually what happens on intranets, where you have like the where employees have to do it themselves. They put in their photo and their phone number and what they're good at, and then nobody looks at it.
That's right.
And they don't know where to get the information. And this is something really easy where they just say what they need. And it figures out
the AI
who's
does
able.
the matching. Yeah, the AI does the matching. And it's great because there's such a big movement with inside companies to connect people to other talent with inside organizations. And if you think about the world we live in with everyone, you know, in many countries, different offices or hybrid, remote, what have you, it's hard to meet people and network even within your own organization. And you might not know who is an expert on, you know, I need someone to help me understand more of the data analytics side of HR. Who could help me with that inside the company?
Yeah, that's really, really helpful.
It's very cool. It's great. I think it's an awesome solution, and it does other types of coaching as well. But I'm giving her a little shout out because she's been working hard with her team, and they've got some amazing customers as well. But it's all about, you know, examples of how, you know, chatbot technology can really be used to connect people to other people too. It's not just in not just replacing people. It's actually creating more of a human connection as well, right?
No, I agree, and I think it's valuable. Especially the bigger the companies are, the more difficult it is to really understand who can help you with what. If you would give, you build a business, you build an application. If you would give an advice to other entrepreneurs looking out to do the same you're doing, maybe in a different niche, you're way ahead of the rest. What would your advice be?
I would have to say, really do research before you even start to launch a company. You know, make sure that the problem that you want to solve is real, and there is that kind of pain that people, of course, people, if they're starting a business, they need to make money at it at some point. So make sure that it's something that can be, frankly, monetized. If you are working within the tech sector or, you know, other types of even any kind of industry, and you think you need to get funding at some point, which you will, you know, if you're selling technology, you have to grow and have the talent to build the technology. You know, raising funding is challenging. Make sure you understand what you know you're getting into as far as the types of metrics you need to meet from sales perspective and growth metrics to be able to understand how you are going to be able to scale and grow your company, you know, to equal the assumptions that investors make at what they like to invest in. Because I think the days of investing on an idea on paper are gone.
I agree.
I think that
bubble has bursted.
That bubble has burst, and you have to prove out your value proposition, why you're unique, your technical moat, your sales traction. So think through all those types of aspects and, you know, make sure it is something that's going to be workable. Otherwise, you may have a lot of time and disappointments. It's been a learning experience for me. I've been at a lot of early stage startups, but it's something different when you're starting the company from ground up, right? Yeah.
And one last question. This is from the perspective as an entrepreneur. And what would your advice as an entrepreneur be to CEOs or executives in companies that are looking at implementing or maybe implementing conversational AI because it's hip and happening, and that's of course the wrong reason. But what would your advice to them be? How to look at this, how to approach this, how to approach team building or the investment decision? What would your advice be?
Well, I liked how one of our customers had this top-down initiative from a CEO down. Every department needs to think about one digital transformation tactic or solution that they want to apply to a business problem within it. So I would suggest to the C-level folks to really get their own people involved. They know the types of problems that are, you know, costing the business money or prohibiting revenue from being generated. Have them surface the types of issues that may lend itself well to chatbots and automation, and then really kind of address it based on those types of pains, because you want to see companies succeed. So they need to hit on things that they're going to see that ROI value. And each individual group is going to know their pain points better than anyone. And that can be the first step of evaluating. But get in and try. I mean, you have to take that first step. And if at first you fail, try again. You know, this is something that they're going to have to go for it and put some stake into it, knowing that not every single process, chatbot, whatever they use is going to be successful, but they've got to start trying, right?
So they have to understand that even failure is a success.
That's right, because you're learning from it. You're having the learning experiences,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I think that's a very good note, a moment to finish this recording, because I think that those last two tips are, besides the whole thing is valuable, but these are we brought it back to the core, and I think that is so important that people understand, whether it's entrepreneurs or C-level people, that you cannot be in this for the short haul. You have to understand you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do stuff nobody has done before or nobody understands, and make sure you build the knowledge within your company. Don't be dependent on only outside consultants. They can help you get started, but then you have to do it on your own. Maybe with a little help from outside, but make sure that the big chunk of the knowledge is internally built internally, because it's going to be a strategic competence. That's what I see.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we agree on this, but in a year's time, we need to talk again to make sure that who is winning this bet.
That's right. I do hope you are, but
we'll see.
Because I would love to see progress pick up the pace right now. So,
but I think we can agree on that, and I think a lot of stuff is happening. Beth, thank you very, very much for being on the show. I enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you again in a year.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, and I'm pretty sure we'll be in touch in between in that year.
Thank you very much. Doran. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. If anybody is looking for you, where can they find you?
Our website is www.mebebot.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn. Beth White. Yep, on LinkedIn and
we'll
Twitter.
make sure we'll tag you in our posts. Okay, thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch.